Progressive overload is crucial when it comes to gaining muscle and strength. That's what all the studies show. But is there a way to progressively overload your muscles without adding weight? There's 5 ways. That's what we're going to talk about today. Progressively overload your body without adding weight.
It's such a good conversation because I think that there's so many people that assume that progressive overload just means adding weight to the bar.
Right.
And yes, there's a case to be made for that. And I think we all utilize that. But in my training career, I can think of many other ways that I would progressively overload the bar or overload the body without adding weight to the bar.
Yes.
And I can think of many cases where that was the more appropriate way to overload the body than to just add weight to the bar.
With eliminating a lot of the risk involved, because you get to
100%.
a certain point where it's like you're looking at a substantial amount of weight that's, you're only getting so much benefit, and with the risks are really high.
Listen, this is super important to understand, because if you do this right, you do a good job and you're consistent and this becomes a lifestyle, you're going to be hit in the face with this at some point, because you can't keep adding weight to the bar. At some point, the risk versus reward becomes, too risky, right? Like you're squatting a lot of weight, adding 20 pounds to the bar now dramatically increases your risk of injury, and the gains you get from that extra 20 pounds aren't really going to be that substantial. Where do you go? So this is a problem, or should I say this is an avenue you want to go down right out the gates. Now, for trainers and coaches, this is crucial, because if you're the trainer that just adds weight to the bar, you're not going to be a very good trainer. You have to figure out how to overload the muscles or how to tap into this without adding weight to the bar. And like you said, Adam, I think the ways that we're going to cover in many cases is more appropriate, is better, more effective.
100%. I was trying to think when you first wrote this, if I actually had to do a pie chart of all my clients, and I said all these different ways, and obviously adding weight to the bar as one of these ways to overload the body. I don't even know if it takes up the majority. Mm-hmm. I think more than half the time, if not more, I utilize other tools, just because the average person that we dealt with was middle-aged, overweight, pretty new to weightlifting.
Pretty inexperienced.
Yeah, pretty experienced. It's not like I was training a bunch of you. If I was training you guys, then of course we would be probably mostly adding weight to the bar for a big portion of our group. But even us, and this was the point I wanted to make to you, Sal, is that I think we're guilty of progressively overloading with weight to the bar when we probably should go the other direction, because the return, we've already reached, all of us in here have reached a level of strength where we're really not squeezing that much more out by adding more weight to the bar. And in fact, it would behoove us to do that, even if it's not just purely at the point you were making about injury. When you put 400 or 500 pounds on your back to squat, and a little bit goes off, that puts you at risk for injury. But even not just that, it's just stressful on your body and your joints. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't get hurt like a serious injury, that extra wear and tear everywhere else on your body for the return that you're getting from it, is it really that much better than if you would have just used another method of overload?
I want to be very clear, because someone may be getting confused. Progressively overloading your muscles means they get stronger. That's true. Every one that we're going to cover today means you're getting stronger, but that doesn't mean there's more weight on the bar. So I'll explain. Let me go with the first one, right? Here's an easy way to progressively overload your muscles without adding weight to the bar. Let's just say you do curls with a 50-pound barbell, okay? And that's hard for you. 50-pound barbell is hard to do 10 reps. And you get stronger. You're like, you know what? Should I add weight to the bar? I could add 5 pounds to the bar, which means I'm stronger, or I could make the reps go slower, or I could slow down the reps. I can make the reps take an extra second or two on the way up on the way down, so that now I'm doing the same amount of reps with the same weight, but it's much harder. Now, the way I'll pose this is this. Slower reps with the same weight doesn't mean does that require more strength? It does.
Yeah.
Somebody who could squat 300 pounds and take 5 seconds on the way down, 5 seconds on the way up is stronger than somebody who squats the same weight, 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down. So you're still getting stronger. You're just not adding weight.
You're eliminating a lot of the momentum involved with that, and and it's also a more focused kind of discipline type of an approach, which again, it bodes well for a beginner, but also too, if you're trying to challenge, the normal way that you're approaching weightlifting, and even us, seasoned vets in the gym could change up just the tempo of it and really receive a totally different experience.
I also think that if your overall goal is like real world strength, we're not talking about the person who's chasing a PR for their powerlifting meet, right? Everybody else who wants to look good, feel good, be strong in real life, challenging with like slowing it down and the other things you're going to talk about. Like that, we don't live in a world where when I go to pick up the couch, I stop my buddy before grabbing it. Hold on, let me get my 4 seconds down, and then 2 seconds at the bottom, then we grab it, and then make sure we come up in 2 seconds. Like, you don't do that. Like sometimes you have to get down and you're working your hands and you're holding that position for a little while. Sometimes you do it slow. Sometimes you do it fast. Like there's lots of ways that you want to be strong that in this perfect 4-2-2 cadence or whatever you move the barbell in. And so moving it slower, moving it faster, all these pausing, all these things that you're going to talk about, I think are so important for protecting the body out into the real world.
Right. And the muscles aren't perceiving the weight on the bar, or should I say they're not perceiving objective weight, it's the tension.
Yep.
And slowing the rep down increases the tension. Here's how I used to use this with clients. When I would have a client that I'm training and my target rep for them range was, let's say 10 reps, and I'm watching them and they're on rep 8 and I'm like, they could do probably 4 or 5 more. The next 2 reps, I slow them down.
Yeah. Isn't that, they've shown that that's like the biggest mover is mechanical tension.
Yes.
In terms of muscle building. So you could definitely meddle with that without a lot of weight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll tell people right now, do 4-second negatives on all your lifts and you're going to have to go lighter.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
Well, I used to do the same thing with my client that you just described. And I think this is a good skill for everybody to learn to do. Cause I don't know, if you go to enough gyms with different machines and weights and have days where you have good rest, not so good rest and train, you're going to find that many times in your life, you're going to choose a weight that ends up feeling lighter than what you probably could have done. And like having that skill to be able to
slow down,
just slow down. So that's how I train today. Like I don't even really, I don't find myself, yesterday was the first time I trained in a while, like almost 30 days. So I know I'm weak. So I know I'm much weaker than what I was when I was right in the swing of things. And I'm getting ready to do lat pull down. And I'm not going like, God, am I at 180 right now, or am I at 120?
Just pick a weight.
Just pick a weight.
And then make it hard.
And then I make it hard. It doesn't even matter what I pick. And so in fact, I don't even remember what it was. I just slid it in. Now I knew better than to slid it in my PR, you know what I'm saying? But I just picked a light weight that I know that isn't going to hurt me. And then as I was doing, I was like, oh, that was really easy. And so the last like 5 reps, I squeezed, I paused.
Grip it harder. Yeah. You could set yourself up, and really work on the mechanics of the whole thing and intensify that process. There's all kinds you can do.
That's right. The weight on the bar only matters because of the tension it provides. And you can increase the tension by simply slowing the reps down. And so now you've progressively overloaded your body or the target muscle without having to add weight to the bar. The next one is to increase the range of motion. This one's a big one, especially for certain exercises like squats. Like a lot of people have challenges doing a really deep squat. So if you always squat down to parallel and you find yourself like ready to add 10 pounds to the bar, try squatting 1 or 2 inches lower. That's all. Just an inch or 2. Don't go crazy with the depth because maybe you can't control that much. Go a little lower and watch what happens. I remember as a kid when this really was evident to me. As a kid, we learned as early trainers that the safe way to bench press, and I can't believe they taught this. It's I know. They don't teach this anymore.
I taught this for a long time.
I don't think they teach this anymore, but this was something that, in the late 90s, I learned in my certifications. They said the safe way to bench press was to come down to where the back of your arm is
90 degrees.
90 degrees, right? Yep. So your arms are bent at 90 degrees, arms parallel to the floor. So when I would stop my bench press, it was like a good, I don't know how many inches, that 12 inches off my chest.
So, yeah.
And we were taught to bench press that way. Yeah. And so I bench pressed that way for a while, and I got my bench press up to, I don't remember what it was, but it was high. It's 300 pounds, something like that. And my buddy's like, you're not going all the way down. I'm like, what's the difference? He's like, try going all the way down. And I brought it down, and that was it, man. I'm like, I need help. Lift this bar off my chest. I couldn't believe how much weaker I was with just a little bit more of a range of motion. Yeah. So longer range, by the way, what they taught was dumb. Fuller ranges of motion, so long as you control them, are also better for building more muscle, by the way.
Yeah.
But longer ranges of motions challenges your body differently. It adds more tension in areas where you're not as strong. And if you could do a squat to parallel with 200 pounds, going down 2 more inches, it's like adding 10 pounds to the bar. That's what it feels like. Today's program giveaway is a super bundle. If you want to win, leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop it. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications. We'll let you know in the comment section if you win. We also have a sale, MAPS 15 Performance and the RGB bundle, 50% off. If you're interested, go to mapsfitnessproducts.com. Use the code MAY50 for the discount. Back to the show.
I would add to the movement. So I think this matters in all movements, but I think the squat is number one. A close number two, Justin will probably appreciate this with what he's been doing right now, is a full range of motion overhead press.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Those two
100%.
right there, which people call that the squat of the upper body, right? Is the overhead press. Those two, I neglected range of motion for so long, and I had to do what you said. I had to lighten the load in order to increase the depth on the squat, in order for me to bring the bar all the way down and all the way above my head. And those were some of the greatest gains I ever saw in my legs and in my shoulders, was starting to practice.
Aren't those like two of the most visible, when you see it, some average person that comes into the gym, whether or not they've continuously lifted overhead or they've squatted to depth, like you can immediately see it's a stark limitation that they have, and then they try and compensate with it immediately. But those two, it's just glaring to me always.
Me too. And I'll add to that, for the people that don't care about the aesthetics, like maybe I do, because I know I speak from that perspective a lot of times. It's also the two things that bulletproofed my low back and hips and my shoulders more than anything else.
Of course.
When I started to full range of motion shoulder press and full range of motion squat, a lot of the aches and pains and tightness and stuff that I had going on in my shoulders, necks, and my hips and my low back, gone. Yep. And now all I have to do, it took a lot of corrective work, took a lot of working on that range of motion. Now all I do is have to full range of motion shoulder press, full range of motion squat, and it keeps all that stuff at bay.
Yeah, so your body, your muscles will get really strong in pretty specific ways, meaning if you train in a particular range of motion, most of the strength you gain is in the range of motion that you train. So when you go outside of that range of motion, it's a brand new range of motion. You'll tap in newbie gains.
New
in fact, of all of the ones we're going to talk about today, this one right here in particular is connected to more muscle growth and gains. In other words, two exercises done identically, except one has a greater range of motion. The greater range of motion is going to produce more muscle growth. So this is a great way to add resistance, right, to progressively overload, but it's also a better way to build muscle, period, end of story. So number two, this was my favorite one. Yeah. Next up is to pause the reps. Pause the reps. I love this one, especially for exercises where, like for me, barbell squats, if I train them regularly and I'm careful, I could get pretty strong. But my squats are always an issue for me. And with my squats, when I get past a certain weight for myself, I know I start playing in the territory of injury or aches and pains. And it's just because mobility for me is not always, it's typically not like this big focus. I'd have to do lots of mobility work to really get to this point, but I don't. And so I get stronger and I start to notice issues. So one way I've gotten around that is, rather than adding weight, is I pause at the bottom of a squat. Yeah. So I'm feeling really strong today. Rather than going up to 375 on my squat, I'll keep it at 315 and I'll hold the bottom for 5 seconds. And it's as if I added weight to the bar.
Hardest part of the movement. And that's where we're summoning the troops. We're staying there to try and get more effective and efficient at actually recruiting muscle fibers. And so just even back to your bench pressing visual, it's like getting that depth and then holding that at the bottom part of the lift and really squeezing and owning recruiting, so that way you have the strength. Now you can build upon that so much more effectively.
So does this also overlap with the research in regards to like isometrics and the gaining the extra 20 to 30% in both directions?
Yeah.
So you take someone like you, for example, who may not be able to get ass to grass squat, but you can get a little deeper than parallel, and then you pause down there. Yep. Are you getting some of the benefits north and south 30%?
More so than you would just coming right back up.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's a huge value in itself right there, right? So let's say you're somebody like you, and that the squat applies, but apply this to any movement, right? You can't fully get that in range, so you pause at those in ranges, and you're at least getting some of the benefits north and south of that. Or
now for muscle building, well, two things. First off, you could pause the rep anywhere. You could pause it at the top, squeeze. You could pause it at the bottom, hold. It has to be under tension, so don't pause the rep
At the end ranges would probably be the most beneficial though, right?
The stretch for muscle, right? So for muscle gains, it's the stretch. But that doesn't mean avoid, the end range of motion, the fully contracted position, because that's beneficial as well. Yep. Nonetheless, always have tension is what I'm trying to say, because what you don't want to do, for example, with the bench press, is bring the bar down your chest and let it sit on your chest. That's not what we're talking about.
No,
you want to pause it, but hold and support the weight while you're doing it. This one's one of my favorite ones. This is one of the ones I do on a regular basis. When I'm in a set and I feel stronger than the rep range that I thought I was going to hit, I just start pausing. And I'll pause in the stretch typically, and it's amazing. Yeah, it's really amazing.
I mean, again, it's like you're incorporating the value, and we've talked ad nauseum on the show about isometrics.
Yeah,
and so you're including that, just a much safer way to intensify something and gain that extra access.
And you're just signaling you're strong, you're safe, secure in the joints, so that way too. Now it actually like allows your body to produce more force.
Right. Next up is to go faster. Actually lift faster. This is the riskiest of all the ways to progressively overload. But what you do is you take a weight that you can move relatively quickly and then try to see if you can move it faster. This is like Olympic weightlifters do this. Yep. So an Olympic weightlifter who let's say they can lift 135 pounds. Let's say they can throw up 135 pounds. It takes them 1 second to do it. If they can do it in half a second, they've exerted more force. They've actually progressively overloaded. Even though it's the same weight, they've moved it faster. This one's especially important for athletes. You get good at this, it makes you dangerous on the field, because fast strength is what translates.
Everything happens in a split second.
That's right.
So to be able to recruit and maximize that recruitment process, a really high level, and have that explosive strength on command is such an advantage. And you can train that way by working on your velocity and working on that kind of speed in your training.
Yeah. Speed power is the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking about, as you were discussing this, because I'm envisioning like you making this decision, right? Yourself personally, and knowing where your level of strength is at right now. And, I don't know where your current heavy squat is at, but I know you're north of 400. So let's say, it's a day and you're feeling good, and you're like contemplating 400 and something pounds or more on the barbell, or do I put it down to 135 and do something explosive? Yep. Even though typically we're taught as trainers as speed power is the pinnacle. This is the top. You would actually teach regular grinding strength before you would teach speed power. Speed power is the pinnacle.
You have to own all the other stuff before you can do this.
But at what point does that kind of change a little bit? Because I would think at your level of expertise and experience, that the decision for you to drop down to 135 today and work on some speed power with 135 versus slapping on 450 is lower risk than the 450.
Yes. But I would only do this if you really own the lift really well, because then it could just become dangerous. You could throw a lightweight real fast and hurt yourself.
Yeah, but do you get what I'm asking right now?
Yeah, like at what point is it better?
Exactly. Because obviously, let's take another example so the audience can understand where I'm getting at with this question. I'm just posing a question to create a conversation that I was just thinking, right? Like, you're a beginner. You've only been lifting for 6 months. And
it's because of the maturity of his skill.
Exactly. Like, you're only been listening 6 months. I'm not going to go speed power with that person.
No.
They're
this is probably more valuable for the experienced lifter. This is probably more valuable for somebody who's been doing it for a while.
Right. And I guess to your other point with that, it's valuable for him to create novelty with that. But is it like necessarily a big shift in his training to be able to now just focus exclusively on that and go like aggressive with speed training?
Of all of these, this would be the one I would say save this for the people who are advanced, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Next up is, and this is like bodybuilders are experts at this, is just intrinsic tension.
Yeah.
This is just, and this I can do really well. I know Adam could do this really, really well. Justin can do this really well. Like, this comes with experience, but you could give me a weight that is 90% lighter than what I would normally do, and I could make that weight through tension feel heavy.
Yeah.
You could give me, I mean, I could overhead press for reps, let's say 135 pounds. Could I make 50 pounds feel just as hard for 10 reps? I could. I could, with tension and the speed of the rep and squeezing the bar and feeling where I need to feel it. Bodybuilders are experts at this. Like, you can watch a pro bodybuilder who's got more muscle on their body than anybody you've ever seen, who's obviously could lift a lot of weight. And for the inexperienced lifter, if you've ever seen a pro bodybuilder lift, I guarantee you this has happened to you, because this happens to me. The first time I saw a pro bodybuilder work out, I was a teenage boy, and I remember being like, he's not as strong as he's not strong at all. Yeah. He's barely lifting any weight. Not understanding that what they were doing was making those reps count so much because they know how to create tension. So that right there is
increased effort.
And not that other athletes don't have the same thing either, but I know like for a bodybuilder, because it is all based off of the way you look, you cannot risk getting injured. And so I think that's what really drove them. And that's not to say there's not examples of bodybuilders that break this rule, right? You have bodybuilders that were doing
Ronnie Coleman.
And what was the other? What was
Dorian Yates.
Was the white boy with the bald head that was always like doing crazy intense lifts?
Branch Warren.
Yes, Branch Warren. Thank you. Yeah, like there's definitely
examples. Works out like that.
Yeah, I know. There's definitely examples of guys that are like totally. But for the most part, most bodybuilders are just like, why put more weight?
Dexter Jackson.
Their attitude is, why put more weight on the bar if I can get more out of this?
Get the same with lighter weight.
If I can build as much muscle with less weight. And they're great examples of utilizing all the other ways of progressive overloading besides just adding weight to the bar. Yes, they add weight to the bar too. But like you said, this was something I prided myself on, like my early years in training. Like I used to love to go find the guy who I thought looked out of shape and that was lifting really heavy weight. I go do the exercise with a quarter of the weight he was doing and be looking all shredded, and knowing that he's looking next to me, knowing that he wants to look like that, but I'm doing it with half the weight and going like, wait a second, am I doing it to start up a conversation? Because you don't have to move this crazy amount of weight to build a ton of muscle on the body.
Well, and I think too, this is something that falls in this category, but it's a little bit more, I guess, on the old school or like athletic side of the fence, where you're adding a little more stress testing in terms of balance. So, for instance, like I'm adding a light weight, but I'm adding a little bit more of a chaotic influence of forces. So there's a lot more. So say I'm doing a bottoms up kettlebell press, for instance. And now I'm fighting two lateral forces, rotational forces, and normal gravitational forces while I'm also doing it. And so I have to stay completely tense while I'm doing the same thing with adding a longer lever to something. And so for like a single arm press, but with the full barbell, right? That's a lot more challenging, a lot harder, but it's not necessarily like a ton more weight. It's just, you have to be more focused and concentrate on your tension.
Yeah, no, you're talking about where so I saw when Sal put the 5 up, we did an episode that it was the 9 ways to progressively overload. And there's things like instability is another way to do it.
Instability is kind of
right. So if you create instability in a movement and now you're having to deal with these outside forces to make the unstable that you now have to intrinsically fire. That's another way.
Intrinsically, enhancing your tension.
Yeah. So you could subcategorize some of these into other categories to stretch it beyond just 5 ways, because there's more than 5 ways to press and overload the body.
It's funny you brought up the long lever. I remember seeing bodybuilders do laterals with a barbell, and I remember thinking how dumb they were. Now realizing just how smart they were. Because with the barbell, you got to keep your hand level and be steady.
I was doing side bends. I used to do those,
bro. We used to do the lateral raises with the straight bar.
Yeah, with the barbell curl bar or whatever. Yeah, dude. Oh my god, that's so totally fun. Anyway, I got to bring up something very interesting that I've observed, and I didn't realize that I've observed this until we just had Dr. Ben, what was the last name, Doug? Bickman on the show. So that'll air later. But he was talking about how they're going to do this study, and he reminded me of something. We partner with Element. This is electrolyte powder, high in sodium, 1,000 milligrams per can or per dose. And I noticed that, and I noticed this with clients back in the day too, and myself, high salt or sodium, no calorie, either foods or beverages are great ways to curb hunger.
Yeah.
Great ways. Bodybuilders know this. Bodybuilders would love to snack. What's one of your favorite snacks?
We would salt the hell out of stuff.
Yeah, and what was your
beef jerky for sure?
Or what about a pickle?
Oh yeah, pickle. Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, like 5 calories.
Well, but
it's salty.
So that was part of also so I would sodium load in prep. And I would eat 2 large dill pickles on top of my already high sodium diet to push it even further.
But I remember doing this, that the few times I really, really, really tried to get super, super shredded, I would have salty low calorie foods, or I would add salt. What I used to do, I used to get like sparkling water, and I would add salt to it, and I'd drink it, and it would really, the
dill pickle thing is actually a really good hack that we've never really talked about on this podcast, because you're also getting,
you're also crunching on
something. You're crunching on something. It's pretty good size, and it's like super low calorie. Like it's not hardly any calories, high in sodium. So it keeps your mouth busy. It's got a lot of surface, so it's not like so. Yeah, I think that's such a hack for somebody.
Pickles were a diet food back in the day, like a real popular one.
It should be. It's a smart, and you add in the fact if someone's low calorie, they're probably low sodium too, and so probably good for them staying hydrated like that too. So it's interesting that we don't hear or see it talked about more often, because in the community that was like a well-known thing that you ate dill pickles all the time.
We should look to bodybuilders more for some of these hacks.
I love it, bro. I love that. I feel like I'm
it's like all full circle.
Yeah, it is full circle. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we're getting it's a comeback, man, for us.
Anyway, I got to bring up a top. We were talking about progressive overload. It reminded me about a fallacy. I didn't know there was a name to it. It's called the arrival fallacy. So this is the fallacy that when you arrive at your destination, you arrive at your goal, that you're going to be so happy and satisfied.
Right.
Like I remember when we had Mark Manson on the podcast years ago.
So depressed because he hit bestseller. Yeah.
He's the author of Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. That's an old podcast episode. We interviewed him. I remember him saying the most depressed he ever was after accomplishing this massive goal of his.
It was shortly after too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I was reading about this, and really we're wired this way. We are wired to progress. We're not wired to arrive. No. We're never so one of the examples I heard being explained was like diet. Like, I'm trying to lose 30 pounds and my goal is to lose 30 pounds. Therefore, I'm going to avoid these foods and do this workout. And then when I'm there, what's my reward? I never get to eat those foods again. Like, that sucks. And so people fail all the time. This is why we talk about the journey so much. This is why we talk about all the ways that we train the behavior, why it's about discipline and not motivation. But I do find this fascinating. I heard Jordan Peterson talk about this, and he said that you have this framework, this motivational framework that is geared towards progressing. But once you arrive, the motivational framework breaks down at a biological level. Like, we are wired to desire things. We are not wired to get them or have them.
It's a trip when you think about that.
How crazy is that? So when I'm thinking about some of the tricks, for lack of a better term, that I've used for fitness, like how do you work out forever? Like, how do you stay consistent for the rest of your life? One of the things that I do, and I know you talk about this, and Justin, you talk about this, one of the things that we do is we change the goal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there's always something that I can progress at.
Yeah.
So it's like mobility.
There's always something I suck at.
Much there.
Yeah, dude. So it's like mobility, strength,
it's almost endless, really.
Fat loss, muscle gain. Like, and if you keep doing that, I think that helps that motivational framework.
I think that's a massive hack, because and the longer you've been doing this, the better you get at certain things. You always move away from another one. Mm-hmm. So if you get super strong guy, I guarantee you're losing some mobility. You get super performance guy, and I bet you don't get as much grinding strength. There's always something that you can be getting better at.
That's why it's a journey.
And that's why too, embrace the almost like you're starting over feeling. You know, this is also why, and I know you guys have heard this, people have listened to the show for a long time, probably tired of me telling this story, but one of the most powerful moments that I've shared in business was the phone call to Katrina bitching about my day, you know, and her stopping and waiting till I was done and then saying, would you have it any other way? Mm-hmm. I just think that was such a powerful moment for myself, because after her saying that, I went, you're so right. Yeah. Like, if it was it was easy, and every time I tried something, it worked and I won, then it would be lame. What makes it so great is that it is hard, that I do fail, that I get frustrated. Like, I think that us as humans understanding that in all aspects, not just fitness, but obviously fitness too, is so powerful. It's so powerful just because then when you're in those moments, because they're inevitable in anything that you do, you embrace it more. Mm-hmm. You allow it to happen, and you go, this sucks right now.
New challenge.
Yeah. No, this is shitty. I don't like it. But the fact is, if it didn't have this part of it either, then the good side of it wouldn't be as good.
So I was thinking about this and its relation to finding purpose, and why religion in particular is so good It's actually the ultimate way that we found in the data. This is secular data at finding purpose. It's because your aim is at this infinite good.
You can't ever catch it. You'll never
get to it.
You'll never be as good as him.
However, it comes with, especially in the most popular faith in Western societies, which is Christianity, it comes with ultimate grace at the same time, because you'll always fail. You're always going to fail, and nobody likes to fail, but you're getting grace along the way, and you're aiming for something that you'll never accomplish. So it gives you this ultimate sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Really interesting. It's a system that we have that is geared towards progress, and that system breaks down and dissolves when you arrive. So there was a quote I heard. It was, woe to the man who accomplishes his dreams only to realize he dreamed the wrong thing. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. That's a terrible place to be. You know what I mean?
No.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. We have a free guide titled Understanding Your Mood, Stress, and Sleep. It tackles all of those things from a health and longevity perspective. It's a totally free guide. So just click on the link at the top of the description below.
Such a good point. I'm going to bring it back to the salt, because you brought salt up and it just triggered something that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So I'm changing my pool to salt water right now.
Your swimming pool.
Yeah, I'm about to.
So you were saying off air, easy conversion for you.
Yeah. Luckily it is. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. My pool guy said that we have the setup to make it pretty easy, and it was very, very inexpensive for me.
So why? Is it just because chlorine's messing with your skin?
Yeah, I'm already ultra sensitive to it. So it was something I should do no matter how expensive it was going to be. I should make the investment, considering I have a pool now. But what really tipped me over was, and I saw this, I saw a clip, and they were touting some study. And I was like, no fucking way, it can't be that crazy. And so then I went down the rabbit hole of Googling and looking it up, and I found a little bit conflicting with what it said, but most all of it was 60 to 80%. And this podcast thing, I don't remember when I first saw it, but they were saying that they did a study where they basically chlorinated a pool with the amount of whatever amount, I don't remember what the measurement was, and then everybody swam in it for like an hour, then they tested the pool again, and all the chlorine was gone. Meaning that it got all absorbed into their skin. And then I was like, that's crazy. That much we are.
Really?
So within 15 minutes of being in a pool, your body eats up, and this is where there's a little bit of 60 to 80% of the chlorine.
Your body absorbs it all?
What? Yes.
I've never heard of that.
Yes.
Doug, look that up and see. I want to read
weird fact
that's weird.
The smell of chlorine is really like the main smell of it is really just urine.
Hey, that's an old trick to get your mom told you so you don't piss in the pool, dog. That's what that is. That's like the old blue dye, you know what I'm saying? When your mom used to tell you that,
I'm
like,
sure.
Don't piss in the pool, or else it's like, if you smell chlorine, son, that means someone's pissing in the pool.
If you smell that, like, and it's really pungent, like there's probably a lot of piss in the pool.
Yes, the body absorbs chlorine when swimming in a chlorinated pool.
See, that one says 64%. I've read everywhere between 60 and 82%.
Your body absorbs approximately 64% of the chlorine it comes in contact with.
Yes. So within 15 minutes,
I didn't know that.
it was sucking up 60. And
Hold on a second. What would that do to the body?
Bro, and it doesn't just expel it. That's the worst.
Skin?
Yes.
Does it go into your bloodstream?
Does that kill your microbiome? That's got it. Well, it definitely kills the microbiome.
Yeah, I went down the rabbit hole looking at all the long term. It's not good. Let's put it that way. It is not good.
I didn't realize that at all.
And so shout out to whoever it was who DM'd me. I actually had a couple people DM me the same thing about the spraying the what was it on my skin? The
vitamin C.
Vitamin C.
So I'm like ordering that so I can get that. I know you can make it at home, but I just found something to buy it. And then on top of that, I'm also going to go to salt water. After I read that, I was just like, that can't, bro, your skin taking up that much chlorine in 15 minutes, and my little son swimming in it all the time, like that.
Doug, what does chlorine do in the body when you absorb it?
I know.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of symptoms here.
I mean, those are the ones I understand. Like your skin gets irritated.
Let me
hair
search
gets a little
that.
messed up. Mm-hmm. But that's weird. I didn't know that. You're absorbing it?
I know. I didn't either.
Well, that makes me not want to go in a pool anymore.
That's a creepy fact.
Well, that sucks.
And I mean, again, this is the cool part about salt water, right? So even salt water uses a little bit of chlorine. They don't use it's very minimal.
They still have to use some.
Yeah, they still have to use some. It's very minimal. Like our jacuzzi in Tahoe and Park City are both salt water, but they still use a couple tablespoons of chlorine. Wow. Versus the ones that are like the other ones, they use like jugs of that shit. So a lot. And then to think that your skin is like a sponge to it. It just like sucks it all
Would that
up.
make it easier to swim in your pool too, right? Because it's more buoyant because of the salt? Yeah. Salt does that.
I should. I mean, it does when I do a salt bath. I can feel it.
Oh no, it always does that. Like for example, one of my like bucket list things is to go to the Dead Sea and float on it.
What a stupid thing.
That's so cool. Well, no, it's not. It's cool.
I want to go all the way to the Dead Sea just so I can float on top of the water.
Yeah, dude. No, hey, listen.
It's so random.
Go to Salt Lake, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think it's got as much salt in it.
You don't
as
think
Dead
so?
Sea. No, dude. Look up Salt Lake.
I mean, Dead Sea is ridiculous. It's
because my aunt and uncle. First of all, I'd go to Israel for many other reasons, but I want to go.
Yeah, but it just sounds funny you say like, I'm gonna fly all the way over there so I can float in some water.
Don't you think that's cool?
I'm like, bro, I'll just throw some salt in the bath. I'll let you do the same thing.
Dude, my aunt said she went in there and she's like, if you're not careful, you can't get your feet back down to the sand to walk back. She's like, you'll float and then you'll be stuck.
What?
Yeah, dude, because you float so high on the water.
Well, I know how it is with those deprivation tanks, right? Like you go. That's a weird feeling.
That's a good example of what it feels like. I'm sure that's exactly.
Look at the difference. 34% in the Dead Sea. Great Salt Lake is 5 to 27%, depending on the season. So you're not even getting close.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's gonna be
Fair
fun.
enough.
But what Justin said is would probably trump all that. If you go in a float tank, I bet you that's more powerful than any of them.
We've all done that.
Yeah.
Did you guys do that?
And you're like super buoyant.
I thought that was so
like
fun.
you couldn't sink to the bottom if you tried. So that's how buoyant you are.
Super cool. I had a friend. I change subject. I had a friend I was talking to yesterday who was a little concerned because their friend is going to put their younger kid on ADHD medication. And I'm diagnosed with ADHD, so we were talking about this, and they're like, "What do you think about like kids being on these?" And I'm not a doctor, so this is just my personal opinion, but I think we're being a little bit. I don't think we're being honest if we don't think it's going to impact the modeling of the brain, the growing brain, because you have medications that alter the chemistry of the brain, either through dopamine or through other ways. Dopamine, the most common one, right? Like Ritalin. And it's got to change the way the brain develops because of this higher exposure to dopamine. I find it interesting. It's really interesting.
I mean, Ritalin and Adderall is like crystal meth, isn't it?
They're
like,
related. Yeah, they're methamphetamines.
Yeah, it's just a controlled dose of it. I mean, it's the same thing of what OxyContin is to heroin, right? I mean, it's very similar to this. So the idea of giving a kid a drug like that, and by the way, I'll never forget the first time I tried that. I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
So I've never had anything like that. Although I thought that I've had ADD. You and I both have talked about that. I remember the first time I think I took a 5 milligram. I don't know what the low dose is.
10 or
Holy shit was that. And to think that we give that to children.
Well, what kills me is it's like a lot of times it's. I mean, okay, of course there's going to be severe cases and where we do need medications. So I'm not like dismissing that, but like just to get a kid to sit still in like that's the entire goal is just to have them do nothing and sit there like. Adjust your education, like adjust your entire plan, like make it interactive, like, push back on the teachers to do a better job.
What's the percentage of boys versus girls on ADHD medication?
Way higher.
Because
the other thing so I was actually looking at this also, Sal, and the other thing that I was curious about was just how much the amount of iPad and video gaming and YouTube exacerbates this in kids.
Yeah.
And what I found, which was very alarming to me, was how little research we have to show that. And in fact, if you just Google search it, it tries to dispel that really quick. Like if I was just a normal dad or mom who heard that and I went, is video games good for my kid who's got ADHD with that? Like they don't, everything that pops up does not say anything bad whatsoever. And I just think that that's crazy to me. I think the thought that these things that program your kid to want to keep doing it, want to do it in loops has no change in their brain chemistry or their potential behavior. You really think that? Like, no. I don't need a fucking study to show me that I've seen it firsthand in my own son, what it looks like when that's in his life and when it's not in his life. And it's obvious.
I can observe things. I'm capable of that.
So, but if you Google it right now, Google video games and ADHD, and what they do say is that kids that have ADHD are more likely to potentially get addicted to video games, but not that a video game playing and screen time has any sort of any sort of
I know
correlation to.
negative
I know kids who grew up with some trauma, much higher rates of ADD, ADHD. Some people would say it's like a learned trauma response in some cases. I've read that before. I think it's interesting because now there's always extreme cases like there are for lots of different things, but school is not designed at all for the kid who needs to move while they learn.
Yeah.
And there's
Which
adults
is
like
most
this.
boys.
Yeah,
like come on.
Yeah, that's a lot of the fuel behind it is my kid needs to sit
Okay,
still.
so imagine that, and then anybody who is seen Cocomelon or watched any sort of name the Mario Brothers video game, whatever, any of those things, and the amount of lights and movement and screen cutting
God,
and so it sucks the brain in. And so you have a classroom that sits the little boy down all fucking day long to where he's not moving but twice a day for 15 minutes or 30 minutes for recess or like that, and he's having to keep his attention. Then he gets home and he's in front of these YouTube channels that are screen cutting like crazy.
Fast cuts.
So his brain's firing a million times a mile faster while his body is sitting still all day long. And you don't think that changes shit up?
I also think this, like, how able are you guys? I'll just ask you guys. All right. Obviously successful men, built businesses, you guys have families. Let me ask you this. How hard is it for you to pay attention when you're sitting down and learning stuff you don't want to learn? Can you pay attention when you're learning boring shit or stuff you're not into? I feel like that's normal. So if my kid is sitting in class,
that's why I push back.
If my kid's sitting in class and they're being forced, like, you got to learn this, and then my kid's like, I'm not interested in that. Well, when I'm not interested in something, good luck.
Well, and Sal, back to my point, and then I think that's exacerbated when the tech they're getting is feeding that dopamine hit so fast, so hard all the time. So it's like when I'm not at school, I get these constant dopamine hits like crazy in my video game and my YouTube channel that I watch all day long. Then my mom and dad want me to sit in a classroom that I got to learn about boring history or boring whatever. Like, no wonder they can't sit still for that hour because
they're just thinking of where else they can get it next.
Yes.
Like, where can I get that
And
stimulus?
so maybe there's not a direct correlation between the diagnosis of ADHD and video games. But you cannot tell me that allowing kids to be on YouTube and allowing kids to be watching things like Cocomelon, to be doing things like that, and then on nonstop screen time, and then put them in a school setting, and then not think that that's not making it worse is crazy.
Wasn't so? I know we had the creator for Brain FM on the show a long time ago, and he was talking about this big initiative to create. Like FDA get approval for them to be a viable option instead of taking ADHD medication.
I don't know. The way I look at it is, first of all, if I'm doing something, if I'm being told to do something that I'm not interested in, it's very hard for me to pay attention. I think it's true for everybody. I think that's true for anybody. For me, definitely very true. Good luck. You're sitting in a class all day long. Classrooms are not designed in particular for boys. I wanted you to look up, Doug, like boys versus girls on ADHD. I know it's much higher.
Not only that,
boys.
too.
And also, you're going to put them on medicine, which is altering their brain chemistry. That's the point. That's what it does. Their brain is still modeling. It's still building, and there are certain permanent things that happen that you're building as a kid and adolescent until you hit the age of like 25, right? And those you can't change much afterwards. That's why you can learn languages as a kid and not have an accent. And so what you're going to do is you're going to flood the brain with certain chemicals. That's going to affect the long-term development of that brain. It has to.
And why do we have to look at this like it's a deficiency? This could be a superpower. You know how many entrepreneurs that I know are very aware they have ADHD.
Find what their interest is and watch what happens.
That's right. Like that, and they attribute their success to their ADHD. Yeah. Because and a lot of them will say that. They'll say like, I'm very aware that I have this, and I've learned to focus it on the things that I'm into. And now I have a superpower. It's like but no, let's take a drug that's going to just kill that.
3 times as many boys as girls. Now let's look this up. What percentage of entrepreneurs have ADHD versus the regular population?
I believe it's 80.
It's much higher.
I believe it's 80. It's real high.
It's a much higher percentage.
It's a superpower. We're teaching these kids to think that they have a problem.
We all have varied degrees of
and
it,
they're
for sure.
bad. They're bad, but it's like, no, they're doing shit they don't like doing. And then again, I'm adding the video game thing in because I just think that exacerbates all this. It makes that kid really difficult to sit still. What is it?
It's 20 to 30%. And then Doug, look up the average population. What percentage of your it's much higher for entrepreneurs. I know that. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting conversation to me, and I know that there's varying degrees. I get that, but I know that I know diet affects it. I know it does for me. I know for people around me. Yeah, look, 4% versus 20% or 30%.
So, okay.
Diet, exercise makes a big difference. You take these boys that are having trouble sitting down and have them do things that are active.
I didn't even add that, and that's another talking point too, is like if you allow your kid to eat highly processed foods and sugars and
Have you seen food dyes in connections to
Yes.
this? Yeah.
You talked about they're noticing a difference in your kid's behavior by having the red dye. So think of that as this good kid, right? He's got school that is boring as shit. He's got to sit down on his phone. He's got parents that are super busy, and so he's on screen a lot. The stuff he's watching on screen is explosions, fast move, Cocomelon type shit, and video games jumping all over the place. And so he's getting hours of that a day. And then on top of that, he's feeding himself
expressing movement,
processed foods and food dyes and things like that. And then like we're mad at him because he can't sit through fucking biology or whatever the kid is learning at that age, history or whatever, that is like boring as hell for an hour. Like no kidding, it's boring for me.
Yeah,
it's boring for me.
You know what's crazy to me is we don't think about this with animals. Like if you have a dog that you keep inside all day long and then you bring him to the vet and you're like, this dog's crazy. He's jumping on the furniture.
Chewed up
he's
my
chewing
shit.
on
What do they
things.
say to you?
And the doc's like,
did you exercise him?
Are you taking him outside? No.
Yeah,
Oh, he's got ADD. No, it'd be like, dude, get him outside.
Yeah, medicate him,
a little bit.
sedate him.
I know, dude. So many problems that we're medicating are really just symptoms of a lifestyle that just isn't good for us.
So if as parents, list off the things that at all costs you're trying to avoid. Right? I understand Justin made the point. He covered our bases for there are exceptions to the rule, or there's going to be somebody who I understand, right? But for the most part, as a dad, right? Well, like antibiotics, Adderall, what are the things that we're giving to kids that we just are laissez-faire about?
Candy.
Yeah, handing them out like candy that you think about as parents. That like at all cost, like by the way, if my kid needed a life or death thing to take an antibiotic, my kid's getting an antibiotic. I'm going to give it to him. But then at the same time too, if I can do it the natural way, any way possible, I'm not going to give them an antibiotic. That's one.
Or even like pain medication. I mean, I've seen it with other parents, and there's like just a skin knee, and they're immediately giving them pain medication. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like we're setting them up for long-term codependence to this.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's really interesting. I think we're in a society where we see symptoms of poor health, and the solution is to medicate it, not to address the poor.
It's the first thought.
Not to address the poor health. And I mean, and kids are not doing great. Although I will say this, they are trying now to reduce the amount of prescriptions for these methamphetamines for kids, because people are calling it out. They're like, this is a lot, you guys. We're going to put that many kids on these drugs, these addictive drugs that really affect the dopamine system in the brain.
I definitely think that any parent, before you put your kid on that, you should fucking take a couple of those pills. And by the way, you should take double whatever you give your kid, because your kid,
you know what they'll say?
A quarter the size you are. Take it, and then actually think about if you want to give your kid that.
I know.
That's to me. That'd go do
challenge.
That. Like you want to give your kid this prescription. You know that they weigh about 40 to 80 pounds, whatever their range is. You weigh double or triple that. So whatever your weight is, you take 2 to 3 times the dose that they want your kid to take, and then just fucking think about that. Like that's how powerful that stuff is.
I would love to see what percentage of kids who are homeschooled are on medication versus those in school. Because I wonder how many parents who homeschool their kids just change the way that they teach their kids based off of the fact that, my son has a tough time when I try to do it this way, so I'm going to do it this other way.
Well, and also it's more intentional because they're working with them constantly, right? So they have that allotted time spent with them versus like, I think this probably happens a lot more with the parents that are both working or both.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
What's the stat on that? That would be an interesting stat, is how many of the kids on ADHD have like both working parents that are busy like that.
You know, you were talking about earlier about like the entertainment that is, you know, geared towards children, like Cocomelon and stuff.
Yeah.
My kids, my wife's really, really strict about TV and entertainment. But the one thing my kids can watch unlimited amounts of is Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, you said that.
And Mr. Rogers, if you watch it now, it is painfully slow in comparison to TV for kids now. It is painfully slow. And my kids can't handle more than 30 minutes max. And then they want to turn it off because they're like, let's go do something else. But if I put a YouTube children's show on there, they'll watch that for hours.
I shared this with you guys with the original Nintendo. I noticed that with regular Nintendo with Max.
Yeah.
So Max can't play any new video games. Like he's not.
Ends too.
Huh?
It ends.
Oh,
Yeah. It's like
You
it's just boring as shit. Yeah, there's not an endless loop. You get 3 lives. If you ruin those 3 lives in a short amount of time, it's like start over. It's not visually stimulating.
Yeah.
It's like they barely had figured the graphics out. So the science that has gone into video gaming wasn't there yet. So if he wants to play video games, let's go upstairs and play. And I swear to God, every time we stop playing, I'm not done playing. I'm ready. I want to keep playing. He's like, I'm over it, Dad. Like he's not interested. But you let him sit with his friend who's playing like the new games that these kids play.
Like the iPad games.
He'll sit there for as long as you let him sit there.
It's the sandbox versus a real, the old school physics is what was highlighted in that, right? And you had to figure out like, what the best combo was. And it was a really frustrating, but what it taught you was like overcoming challenges, which I don't think that's stressed at all in these new video games.
No.
It's just literally how long can we keep them all there so we can capitalize on this.
Such a great point, Justin. The old games stressed the physics, the challenge, the not giving up, keep doing it over and over again. Because if Mario, you couldn't figure out how to do that, you had to do it 1,000 times over. The other game it's designed to give you rewards and keep you coming back in the open loop theory.
By the way, it's not because old game designers were like these altruistic. Like,
no, they just didn't know yet.
They just didn't figure out how to make it.
That's
just what we knew. Yeah.
They didn't know any better. It's just no different than when we first created processed foods. It wasn't like, let's get everyone addicted to this. It was literally like,
more people are eating this.
It was actually rooted in probably something very good. And then we realized like, oh wow, people are becoming a little addicted to this. How can we manipulate that? And how can we make more money?
Yeah, but that's why I prefer old games too. I'm the same way. It's just like, I feel like they'll walk away from it because it's like, it's frustrating. You suck at it and then you get better and then you get excited because it's like, oh my God, I actually like accomplished something. You never feel like you accomplished something in these new games.
It just pulls you in like crazy.
I'm gonna change directions and bring up our new group training that we're doing coming up.
That's
here.
right.
We got 2 groups we're gonna open up. So we did an experiment with this and it turned out so well. I think we're gonna continue doing this. So
we did the original GLP one, had great feedback from that. Then the boys ran another group, which is almost done, Transform, which we've had incredible results.
So these are groups of 50 people, essentially. It's around 50 people. You get in there and you get coached by Mind Pump trainers. And they meet with you weekly and they coach you through your fitness journey. And the 2 groups we're going to do, one is for muscle gain and the other one's for fat loss. So we're going to have 2 groups this time, running at the same time. So if you're interested in fat loss, we have one. And if you're interested in just building muscle, we have another one. And we keep the groups small on purpose because we want good service, but we doubled that we could do 2 groups now because we have more trainers now. So we're slowly adding trainers to our roster. So we now have 2 groups that we're going to be running. So fat loss and muscle gain.
We have to bring up that stat though. Was it like the average was like 2 inches around the waist?
Yeah, the average person in our last group, which was a combination, they went through a reverse diet, then a cut, and they're not done yet. So that was like
midway through or something.
Average person lost 2.5 inches around their waist.
Already.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. And that's mostly average. To the reverse diet.
Yeah. No, it's been exciting.
So this is mindpumpgroupcoaching.com is where you can go sign up. But it's only 50 people for each. After that, we're done. But we'll run another group later on for maybe another goal.
I thought I saw, Doug, did you scroll down? Oh, yeah. Do we have Ned as a commercial today?
Yeah, we do.
I got to tell you guys with Ned, man, I got to tell you, I haven't used cannabis in so long, right? But Ned has really become a great way for me to get that kind of euphoric feeling that I'm looking for.
I can add to that, yeah.
So I'll use Ned when I'm trying to be creative or in a social setting in some ways. And
Do you think you feel more of it because you're not smoking, and so you have?
And it's also cleaner. It's not like I'm high. I'm not like that. But I get this nice, calm, euphoric feeling.
Is it the one they call de-stress?
So I like all of them, but I typically will use just the regular Ned.
So that one because I've been trying to scale off of like taking edibles and like, the whole thing before, because it did help me sleep and it helped me calm down at the end of the night. So just been doing drops of the de-stress is, instead of that. And then, at first there's a little bit of a big difference. I didn't feel it, but then like over, a week of doing this now, it's like, oh, I get in that state and it's starting to kind of really take me there.
It's like, I'm getting this nice, I get a nice euphoric feeling from Ned, nice, calm, euphoric feeling. It's, and it's hemp. It's hemp oil.
I think you feel it no matter what, even if you actually do smoke like I do. But I actually think that it's probably more obvious when you're completely off.
Yeah,
I mean, I imagine that you probably feel a lot more.
Yeah, and again, I don't get the negative effects. It's not cannabis, so I'm not hammering my body with THC or whatever. So. You guys were- Element T is the best electrolyte powder in the world. No artificial sweeteners, no sugar, and the right amount of sodium. Go through our link, drinkelementt.com/mindpump. And get a free sample pack with any drink mix purchase. All right, back to the show. This segment of the podcast is brought to you by Mind Pump Fitness Coaching. This is the #1 course that teaches trainers and coaches how to build sustainable 6-figure plus businesses and careers in fitness. Look, it's roundtable based, so you can hear Adam, Justin, and myself teaching you how to build a better business, get more leads, close more deals, close bigger deals, and be more effective trainers. By the way, our course is nationally recognized. In fact, it gives you 1.9 CEUs with or for your NASM certification. Find out more at mindpumpfitnesscoaching.com.
Our first caller is James from California.
What's up, James?
What's happening?
How you doing,
Hey,
James?
how's it going, guys?
We're doing good. How are you?
Oh, excellent. I really just want to say I've been really inspired by your podcast and the Pumps Anabolic, and it's been very informative. Listening to your podcast on the commute every day and inspirational.
Thank you. How can
Thanks for taking my call.
You got it.
What you got for us, James?
So you got in my email I sent pretty much a 52-year-old man, athletic, I would consider, and pretty out there as far as doing cycling and surfing, etc. And since I turned 50, so my belly's getting bigger, and so I've been working for the past couple months on dumping almost like 200 grams of protein into my body. I weigh 235, and I just came up with that number randomly because I want to get a bit lighter on my feet on my surfboard and get rid of the belly fat. I also want to, of course, be looking better, but function and faction as far as being stronger upper body, having more of a chest. And so I've been lifting 3 nights a week, going very low reps, very low weight, and then also doing a bunch of HIIT classes, aerobic classes. And I know it's a marathon, not a sprint, but I've been going at this for about 2 months. And specific questions are, going from 235 to 200, but yet wanting to get a bigger chest and shoulders and more of an upper body for function and fashion. Is that number make sense at all? Or
The 200 grams makes sense, but let's back up on the programming right now. So let me make sure I get everything clear. You're lifting weights 3 times a week, plus you're doing HIIT classes, and then are you also doing the running and swimming and surfing and all the other stuff in addition to that?
Yeah, on the weekends.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not going to build a chest like that, James.
Are you following any of our programs?
I had the MAPS Anabolic because I've never lifted weights before, and my awesome roommate, she got me this. She got me this the program, and I didn't know how to lift weights, so I've been following it, but not to the T. I've been going in and doing everything to do with chest, biceps, and shoulders, low reps, like 8 to 12, 3 sets, not going to fail. I'm talking like just the Olympic bar, like really slow, just getting the most out of it.
Yeah, no, that's not going to work. So follow MAPS Anabolic as it's laid out. The intensity does need to be a little higher. Okay, so it does need to be a struggle as you're working out. In other words, if it says 8 reps, the 8th rep is a struggle. Now you might be able to squeeze 1 or 2 more out, but the 8th one is a struggle. Okay, if you don't have sufficient intensity, it's not going to do much for you. And then we would want you to eliminate the HIIT cardio classes. Now your weekends, keep that up. You love doing that. But stay away from all the HIIT cardio type of stuff and just focus on the strength training. Mm-hmm. And then let's get to the diet part. You're eating 200 grams of protein a day. What does that look like?
Okay, so in the morning, 1 glass of Metamucil, no protein, but 1 to 2 cups of Greek yogurt with no sugar with some blueberries and 1 like Aussie Bite, like a little cereal crunchy thing. It's got 8 grams of sugar. So I haven't been measuring it. I know I need to, but that's almost like 20 grams of protein, maybe 30 with the non-fat Greek yogurt. And then a cup of coffee with plain cream or milk. But I've been looking at, because I'm a surfer, I'm a big fan of Laird Hamilton, but I know I just discovered you guys have the Paleo Valley, but some sort of protein coffee supplement.
Okay.
And then liquids, I'm starting the day off. I have a 3-quart jug of water that I put tea bags in. So I'm drinking that by the end of the day. As far as liquids, 1 to 2 sparkling waters, 1 to 2 cups of hot tea. And I throw in 1 of those Fairlife chocolate protein drinks. You know, this is all Costco materials. That's 30 grams of protein. So like I'm at 50. Then at lunch, I learned this by watching Bobby Fischer video, shopping at Costco, but it's 2 cans of tuna with a cup of cottage cheese, or it's 2 cans of sardines with a small hunk of cheese, or it's 1 can of chicken with 30 grams of protein. So the 2 cans of tuna is 60. The 2 cans of sardines is 44. The 1 can of chicken is 30. And then I'll add 2 hard-boiled eggs to any one of those for 12 grams.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then dinner, this is getting kind of boring and not sustainable, but it's 2 frozen salmon burgers or 1 large burger, right? The 2 salmon burgers are 40 grams of protein. The large burgers, about 20 grams. And with either of those, another 2 hard-boiled eggs at 12 grams. And then you guys, one of your podcasts, the proteins, you know, the 5, whatever that podcast was, it was great. But
I remember that.
Eat the proteins first, then the veggies, etc., then the starch. So I'll have a salad with cheese. And occasionally, those burgers may end up between 2 slices of homemade sourdough bread and a handful of chips. So, yeah, that's my protein intake for the day.
Do you know what your total calories are averaging?
I have not totaled the calories.
So what I'd want you to do is stick to whole natural foods for this to work, which means also avoiding shakes. So the reason why we tell people to hit high protein, well, there's a few reasons, but one of them, especially when you're trying to lose weight, is it produces satiety. But when you take it in supplement form, like shakes and powders, you lose a lot of that effect. Okay, so powders and shakes are good for people who struggle with hitting their calories. But for people who want to cut or lose weight, whole natural foods is going to do that much more effectively. That also means no bread, no chips. You're going to eat things like potato, rice, meat, fruit, vegetables.
Yams,
sweet potato, yam, that kind of stuff. If you stick to just whole foods, so foods like that are 1 ingredient. So salmon burger, I don't know if you're making it yourself. You're buying them. They're frozen, so it's a bit more processed, right? So like salmon, just salmon would be more whole. Now the other option, if you don't want to go that route, would be to have to track your calories so we could see what you're consuming on a regular basis and then go from there. Because without whole natural foods, people tend to overeat. And then the workout part, stick to MAPS Anabolic, don't do the HIIT cardio, and then on the weekends, go ahead and do your activities. That's where I'd start. That's where I'd start with you.
James, how different is the current diet than kind of how you were eating just, say, a month or 2 ago? Or you said you've been doing this for 2 months, so take me back 3-4 months ago. Like how radically different is this food intake compared to what you used to eat?
Oh, thanks. Great question. Yeah, my whole life I've just eaten whatever I wanted, pretty much, and it's usually been yogurt and some, like cereal with the yogurt. It's been Trader Joe's salads, Caesar salads, etc. And then dinner has just kind of been random, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever,
The-
but
the-
a lot of pastas really late night, which I know is bad. But I've never put thought to it up until like January.
Yeah, that helps. I mean, that helps me a lot. The reason why I asked that, we just recorded an episode that we're going to, I think, release in a couple of weeks here. And we're talking about, there was 2 trainers and how we take a client, say like yourself, and the steps. Step 1, what do we do? Step 2, step 3. And one of the mistakes as a young early trainer we would make is, sit down with a guy like you and go like, all right, here's your calories, here's your macros, eat these foods, and radically shift you from what you've done your whole life to all of a sudden something totally different. And the reason why this doesn't work, now it may work temporarily, but why it doesn't work long term is it's so unrealistic from how you ate. And so what I'd do instead is I'd find out kind of how you ate, and then I would make 1 or 2 tweaks. I'd go, oh, okay, James, that's okay right there, but let's just add this to that, and that's better. Or let's eliminate this and trade that for that. But keeping things similar, but slowly modifying in the direction of eating the way I need you to eat in order to hit these goals. Because if I don't do it that way, you do this like, oh, I could do this, I switch over, and then you're eating all these foods you're not used to eating, and you're not seeing the results fast enough. And eventually what happens is the client throws their arms up and says, well, F this. I don't look any better or feel any better than when I did 3 months ago, eating whatever the hell I wanted, and that was way less stress and less work, and then they go back the other direction. The other thing to consider is if we're eating in a calorie surplus and hitting our grams of protein and hoping to build our chest, but then we're doing activity like hit cardio and moving and trying to burn all the time, they're like conflicting goals. One of them is trying to burn and lose, and the other one's to, build muscle. And the body doesn't do that at the same time. It's either anabolic, meaning it's trying to build muscle, or it's catabolic, it's trying to break down and burn body fat. And so we want to make sure the way we're eating and training kind of aligns so that you get the most out of your results. So one of the things I would like to do, if you're open to it, is I'd love to put you in the private forum so that as we're going through this process, the guys and I can kind of step you through it on kind of how we would do this. Are you on Facebook? Can I do that?
Yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate that. I guess, walking, not crazy like afterwards, eating after you eat, I've been doing that, but
That's good.
I guess I'm not knowledgeable, although I'm learning, I want to build for looks and also for surf training and being stronger, but I also enjoy the cardio. So I love to do cycling and cross country skiing and the classes. I enjoy the classes, kickboxing, etc. It's been good to get me hyped up. But you're saying that those two make things not work out as far as building muscle, and that they conflict each other.
They do. And so it's not that we have to eliminate it forever. It's that, okay, hey, let's focus on a goal.
Phase, yeah.
So let's say you hired me and we just got started and we agreed, okay, you give me the vision and I can see what you want. You're like, you want to lean down that waist, but we want broad shoulders and a chest and be strong, and you want to be athletic and be able to do these sports, look and feel good, all the above. But when we go about it, just like building a house, you tell me you want the big, beautiful vaulted ceilings and the French doors and all stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, we got to lay the foundation first. Let's go build the foundation, and then I'm gonna build you that house. But we're not focusing on the French doors and the vaulted ceilings when we haven't even laid the foundation yet. And so that's kind of what we would want to do first, is like, okay, let's build some muscle and let's build your metabolism. Let's do that first, because that's what's going to benefit this look and this athleticism that you want. And so the way we're going to go about that is hitting that protein intake, doing it through whole natural foods, and getting strong in the gym. And that means we're not going to waste a lot of time doing HIIT cardio and all this extra activity. Now, Sal made a point to say, hey, if you love, your stuff on the weekends, we never want to take that from a client. So even though it's not really serving us on the building muscle part, it's something you love to do and you've been doing it forever, there's no reason for us to eliminate that because it's a part of your lifestyle. But anything you're doing outside of your normal lifestyle in order to get these goals right now should be primarily focused just on building muscle and building your metabolism first. And so that's hitting the grams of protein, doing it through whole foods, lifting 2 to 3 times a week, getting strong, pushing the weights to get strong. That's going to lay the best foundation for you. And then we start to structure the rest of the house.
Just got to prioritize it so it's a block where this is our focus right now of building muscle, and then we can build upon that the endurance and, get back to, a little bit more of those other styles of training that you'd probably prefer. But to get you stronger and really maximize your muscle potential, you have to prioritize that first.
Build the muscle first, then cardio next.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. James, have you ever, I know you're just now getting into weight training. Have you ever considered maybe hiring a trainer to actually take you through all this stuff?
Yeah, I have. And my gym's up at College of San Mateo, and that staff up there is incredible. And so got to give a shout out to them. And I may hire one of their trainers because they've been very inspirational and awesome. But on a teacher's salary,
yeah, I get it.
You don't
scraping
need
by here, kind of doing it on my own with your program and stuff. But the nutrition, I think, is really, is going to be the hard part. What's sustainable the next year, the next 5 years, what, and getting this 200 grams of protein into my mouth each day has been sort of like, wow, I almost feel like I'm overeating.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah,
it's like
feels
work.
that way.
It's going to feel like that even more if you stick to whole natural foods. With the trainer, you wouldn't, for someone like you, if it is a large investment, work with them with the intention of learning the exercises, the technique, and feeling comfortable with them is how I would do it.
Yeah, it's not hiring them like, get me all the way to my goal. It's more like, let's learn as much.
Like, here's this program, I'm following it. I really want to be able to am I doing this right? And if they say no, okay, well, what do I need to do to be able to do this right? What is it supposed to feel like? Like, get comfortable with the movements and the intensity so that you can move forward.
James, do you know about our AskMindPump.com, our AI?
I don't.
Okay, you'll love that, man. Okay, so every time you have a question, okay, related to anything, nutrition, exercise, whatever, if you go to AskMindPump.com, it's an AI tool that we built years ago. And it will actually respond as if you're talking to one of us. And then it'll also recommend episodes and YouTube clips where we go deep into that conversation. Yep. So as you're going through this and you have questions about anything, we've probably got the content up there. You just go to AskMindPump.com. And so, if we're talking about doing this as inexpensive as we can, but getting the best bang for your buck and the most knowledge, the forum, I'm going to put you in there for free. So we can be close to you. And then the second thing I'd say is go to AskMindPump.com and use that resource with our program, and then follow the programs as they're laid out. Trust that process. And then when you have questions, either post them in the forum for us to respond to you, or use AskMindPump.com, and then we're going to do our best to help you through this process.
I greatly appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the inspiration.
You got it. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Keep it up, James.
He's never strength trained before.
Yeah.
Which is part of the challenge.
Totally.
Yeah. As he was explaining it, just learning what it should feel like alone.
It's a big hurdle to
huge
overcome.
difference. Yeah. And then, this is good. This is good for us to hear when somebody listens to our show for not a long period of time, who has no experience, to hear what they think we're communicating.
Yeah.
So he heard the get protein, which is true.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of the ways he was doing it was with shakes and stuff, and he's trying to lose weight.
Right.
And he also was really trying to structure and figure out, like, this is what I'm eating every day. In fact, he made that comment.
He was going for convenience, which is understandable.
Yeah. And he also made the comment, like, oh, this is getting kind of boring. You're like, all right.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
So right away, that's why I jumped on that, because I was like, man, this is, and we talk about this. This is why we don't take somebody who's never really tried to follow a meal plan to putting them on a meal plan. It's just unsustainable. Instead, I would peer into his breakfast, let's say, for example, and go
beef it up.
Yeah, and what he's been doing consistently. Instead of radically changing it, I'm just going to tweak it. I'm going to add something to it, or maybe trade something out, but try and keep it close to what he's done his whole life, because that's more realistic with someone like this. If all of a sudden you tell this guy to eat cans of tuna and frozen salmon, I mean, that's only going to last so long. I mean, even if he gets good results from that, he ain't doing that shit for the rest of his life.
And cottage cheese.
I wouldn't keep that up.
Dude.
So, I mean, hopefully, and, to the audience that's listening, I got to get back to, I mean, I know when we launched it, we talked about it a lot, but we haven't really talked about it. And we were obviously getting, thousands and thousands of new people every day practically coming in here. So AskMindPump.com.
Yeah.
And let me tell
we
you,
do have to highlight
it's been so wild to watch it. I don't know how often you guys get on there or not, but it's evolved over the last like 4 years. Like it just keeps getting better. It was great from the jump, but now it's like really, really
Well,
good.
we keep adding content, so it helps to beef it up.
Yeah, no. So if you're not sure, use that. And then this is also an example. I know he's a teacher, but man, if this is something you're really serious about, you want to make a change for the rest of your life, probably one of the best investments you could ever make.
Period.
Period.
Yeah.
I mean, just
you work with a trainer for 3-4 months
to navigate forward.
my God.
To start with the right foot.
It'll save him years of struggle.
Yeah.
Our next caller is Kyle from Texas.
What's up, Kyle?
How you doing,
Man,
Kyle?
Welcome back.
Not a whole lot. Yeah, thanks. So I had originally asked a question about getting more cardiovascular endurance, being able to run more while still gaining muscle. This is about 3 or 4 months ago. You guys had suggested just running maybe 2 or 3 times a week, 2 times a week, and while I'm weight training, so that I don't take away from the weight training, but can still increase that. And that's basically what I've done. I've really just done one longer run once a week, and my time has continually gotten less, and I've continued to gain muscle. So,
All right.
Yeah.
Good job, man.
So tell us a little more.
Yeah,
Is weight maintaining, or are you have you checked body fat at all? Like, what are you seeing? What do you notice?
according to the scale, if it can, it has the sensors that sense the bottom of your feet. If it can sense through my leathery soles, the body fat stayed about the same, right around 26% or so, which I know is high. I'm going to work on getting that down here eventually. But I started my story. I don't know. I started working out regularly in August of last year, and I always waffled between 190 and 200 pounds and felt overweight. At 26% body fat, I felt like I get sore. I have a sit down job after everything up until 2 years ago. I always was in an active job, and so I was between 190 and 200. And once I started exercising regularly, I gained about 40 pounds. So I went up to, I'm about 230 pounds right now, between 225 and 230. And I feel a whole lot better. And I still fit in the same clothes, except some shirts my back won't fit in. But It's not my stomach anymore. It's my back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like
Big old
that.
lats.
All right. Good. And you were following Mass 15, right?
Yes. I was following Mass 15, yes. I started off trying to do my own thing, and I gained a little bit, but then once I started Maps 15, actually I had to cut back. When I got through the rep, once I got to 15, the high rep one, I had to cut back on sets because I wasn't sleeping well.
That's right. I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the kind of person that I'm kind of low key most of the time, but if I get to, once I start picking up weights, I'm like, no, I got to do one more, got to go hard. And so, yeah, I overdid it with it sometimes, but.
And since last time we talked to you, you've gotten faster at your running and you've seen some strength gains.
Yeah, still seeing strength gains. I'm kind of a nerd, so I made my spreadsheet so I can keep track of what weight I did with each thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, give us some numbers.
Yeah, give us some data.
Well, so I have a limited gym. I have dumbbells that go up to 50 pounds. And then I have like this old fashioned, it's called a solo flex. It was like before the Bowflex was a thing.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
And yeah. So that actually has come in handy for heavier things like bench presses and that sort of thing. Obviously the weight is just rubber bands, so I don't know what the weight is on those. But rows, I'm exceeding my 50-pound dumbbells. I'm attaching a band now, doing a 50-pound dumbbell for rows with bands. And I mean, the curls, I can do 8 reps of strict curls with 45s. So
What did you start at?
I haven't. What did I start at? probably 30s.
Well, that's great.
All right.
25. No, it would be 20. Strict would be 25s that I started at. I could throw the 30s around.
Well, let's set you up with MAPS 15 Performance next, so you can continue on this path.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah, we'll send that over to you.
Is there something that? Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there something that you would suggest for, because I have limited weights? So I've started just this last week for like deadlift. I mean, I have a 50-pound dumbbell, so I can do 100 pounds. But is there something that you would suggest other than switching? Because what I did this week is I started switching to one-legged. I'm doing one-legged deadlifts for squats. I'm doing Bulgarians. Just because I'm exceeding the weight that I have at my fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great option, because I'll tell you what, getting up to 50-pound dumbbell single leg is a nice workout.
Yeah.
And you'll get pretty damn strong getting up to that. So, in fact, when I look back to the best I ever felt was when I was really getting strong in my single leg deadlifts like that. So you can get pretty far
That'll
with just
carry
that.
you for a ways,
Okay.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, man.
All right, Kyle.
Thanks for calling
Well,
in.
thanks for all you do. I mostly wrote in just to thank you guys for that. You know, I have 8 kids, a 9th on the way.
That's
I'm a
right.
full-time pastor and I work full-time
That's
as
all
insurance
cool, yeah.
agent. So
That's right. I remember.
life is busy, but it's easier when you feel better.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good for you,
100%,
man.
dude. Yeah.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
baby
Glad
number
it's
9.
working out for you, man.
Yeah, it's
Holy
awesome,
cow.
Kyle.
I really remember you now.
Yeah.
Now I remember the whole
we were
conversation.
stressed.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers the kids, not me, but the kids.
Well, that's because it's awesome.
Thank
That's
you guys. Bye.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
Thanks, Kyle.
Good job, buddy.
All right, no problem.
9 kids, bro. Imagine having 9 kids.
Kids.
You imagine having 9
Surviving is winning.
Reminds me of Total Recall. Where he's
Forget
like, I
Forget
got 9
getting
kids,
stronger.
man.
Can you survive?
Yeah, so you don't need weights, bro. Just grab your kids. You know?
yeah,
Each time you have a kid, it's a progressive
Just throw
resistance. Have them jump on you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's doing good. I think, at this point, I mean, he's progressing in performance, which is good. That's always a good measure.
Mm-hmm.
The next phase for him would be to be able to add some exercise equipment. like barbell.
That and probably tightening
barbell
the diet
down
up.
the
Of course.
Right.
the
So
diet.
he's at a place now
He'll
where
still go
if
for
he
it,
really
though.
wants to drop the body fat percentage,
He has to.
Yeah, it'll be the
diet.
Yeah, it'll be the diet.
Our next caller is Tracy from Wyoming.
Hey, Tracy.
Hi,
Hello,
Tracy.
hello.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. How are
Good.
you? How can we help you?
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I'm a big fan.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So I'm a group fitness instructor and a newish personal trainer. Have recently, besides training women of all ages, I recently started training a lot more youth athletes, specifically middle school girls, like little wrestlers and track stars and swimmers. And so I've been experimenting with different formats, playing lots of games, and then squishing like circuits of good lifts in the middle of games. But I'm curious what your experiences are with youth athletes, what works, what types of programs you've used in the past.
Oh, God. So young athletes.
12, you said, right? 12 years
Yeah,
old.
so you said 12?
They're anywhere from 9 to 14.
And what's
Okay.
the average level of interest in them in exercise? Because that makes a big difference, right? If I work out with a kid who's 11 because the parents hired me and they don't really want to be there, there's a completely different strategy from like the 11-year-old kid that's like, I want to do this because I like my sport.
Totally. Yeah, my swimmers, for example, they're on the USA swimmer team.
Okay.
So they're very motivated. I have them in a group. They're all friends. They compete with each other. That seems to work really well. And then with my one-on-one athletes, it's more of if they get that positive reinforcement from their coach or their parents, and they're like, oh my gosh, you have so much more power on your double whatever axle in figure skating, you know?
Yeah, a lot of this is going to be focusing on basic exercises and a lot of teaching and instruction and perfecting, I should say. So it's like
Simplify the hell out of everything.
yeah. So you have like a deadlift, let's say, and you're going to break it up into 3 separate parts of the movement, and you're really going to perfect. It's like practicing a technique. Like we're going to practice it over and over and get really good at it. So it's not like you're doing 10 different exercises with you. It's like you're doing 2. maybe 2 exercises, and I'm the most of the session is really perfecting the
I like
exercise.
the games, and you're doing that kind of in between. But yeah, I would probably reduce the amount of volume of what your focus is with the exercises, and really kind of sharpen a few like real foundational movements to teach them, so that way they can kind of build upon that as they go. But yeah, I mean, like suspension trainers, I don't know if you use them or not. That's a real helpful tool, with kids to kind of get
the sled.
that. Yeah, just to direct their body a little more. I know that's a big issue, is really they're just, have to get that body awareness established first and control. And so that's why it's slow reps and sometimes isometric holds and some of these things. Like to start with that is usually what I would steer towards initially, and then start building their way towards loaded type of exercises. But really, suspension training is great about increasing intensity while being able to kind of manage that appropriately.
And the thing to consider, is like, if you're training a kid who needs to improve their activity level or increase their activity level, it's different than when you're training an athlete who's already doing a lot of practice and training. So the consideration is like, how do I get them to prevent injury? How do I help stabilize their body? Versus the kid that's like, my son plays lots of video games. I need him to work out. He needs to be active. It's a totally different approach, completely different.
Would you guys
Right,
take?
I don't really have many of those kids.
Yeah.
Would you take, say, in a session where she's got a handful of these kids that are all these ex-athletes, would you guys take, like, just say the squat, and then break it up in 3 parts and do like an isometric hold in them?
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's like
Be a great idea.
I'd have them all in a group and go down halfway on the squat, hold, and they do like an isometric hold for 5 to 10 seconds, and then we come out, and then we do a hold at the bottom for 5 to 10 seconds, and then they do full squats. And so maybe take complex movements like squats, lunges, push-ups, all these different movements, and break them up in like different parts with isometric holds in there.
Yeah.
And then that's when they're in the isometric hold, that's where, as the coach or teacher, I'm walking around and I'm kind of moving their bodies. Oh, nope, chest up a little bit more, pull your shoulder blades back, and I'm going to critique where they're at in the isometric hold and how they're holding their posture.
And
Love that.
And really dive into like really break down the squat into all the, and you could do that lots of different ways, where they start at the bottom, then come up, but take a movement and kind of nerd out on one movement and use isometric holds for your ability to walk around and critique all of them. That's kind of a secret hack.
Yeah, and another thing I guess that I would kind of like pile on to that, which I think that's a great advice, would be to further educate the kids in terms of like having them buddy off, like group them off. If you have enough kids, you can have them kind of in pairs, where one is watching their form and you're kind of teaching them what to look for with the next kid, and they can kind of help shape and guide them as well. So you're not like kind of running, from one to the next, and also it empowers them to learn it more effectively as well.
Cool way to do that, especially when you're teaching like hinge patterns, squatting, stuff like that, is cheap PVC pipes.
Yeah, we do a ton of those with
cool.
them at the beginning.
Yeah, that's awesome. So using those is like Justin's tip of contact, or like having one coach the other. You teach them how to hold the contact points, so one's watching it for the other kid. So I mean, that's kind of what I would really focus on, just 1 or 2 things, and
tempo training, and have them all like really go by that, the count. So you might even have like a beeping kind of timer for them to hit those positions and hold.
I hate the tempo. I just know it.
Well, look, think of it this way, Trace. It's like if you're taking a kid and you're teaching them how to do a layup or how to play basketball, what you're doing is you're breaking it up into different movements to learn the full technique. So first we're going to practice dribbling, and we're going to get really good at dribbling. Then we're going to get good at walking while dribbling. Then we're going to get good at running while dribbling. Then here, stand under the net. Let's practice getting it in, off the backboard. And so you're breaking it up into pieces to learn the technique. Yeah. So that's what you're doing with these athletes, which again is different than the kid who's inactive who just needs a workout.
Right. Mm-hmm.
These kids don't really need a workout. Yeah. What they need is to really learn the skill of the bench press and the deadlift and the overhead press and the squat and a row. And, they need to learn the skill of them. So your job is to get them to learn the skill of these lifts, and that's going to pay them back in dividends for their entire life. Versus What a lot of trainers do with athletes, they think it's another workout. I'm gonna work them out.
Yeah.
Which I don't think they get tons of value out of. I really
Well, they don't need that. They're not.
No,
They're not.
they can go play. They can go to do more practice to go play and get that.
Right. The overweight kid who doesn't do any exercise whatsoever.
Yeah, they got to move.
They got to move in circuits. They got to keep them moving, keep them active. That's the best thing you could do for them. The athlete who's trying to improve in their sport,
they're moving a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to sharpen their skill. Yeah.
Right on.
Awesome.
Well, that helps a lot. I appreciate the isometric and the tempo.
Yeah.
I'll focus on that. That helps. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have, by the way, as a trainer, do you have MAPS Prime or Prime Pro?
Yeah, or Performance 15 actually would be a good skeleton to go
that's
off
a
of.
great one. Yeah. Do you have any of those that we just mentioned?
Mm-mm.
Let's send you MAPS 15 Performance.
Yeah.
I think that there's some good movements in there.
I think it's most appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could really pluck from that and kind of arrange your schedule with it.
Love it. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You got
guys
it.
are great.
All right, Tracy.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a like one of the biggest mistakes I think that trainers make with high level any kind of athlete or even a client who, like, this would happen with me with clients. Forget kids. I'd have these clients that were like these high, like they were just very dedicated to, like I had a triathlete who was a Ironman competitor. And he worked out a lot. He worked out a ton because he's an Ironman competitor. And then he hired me to train him. And the big mistake I made initially was, I got to work him out. No, he's working out a ton. Yeah. I got to help solve some of the issues that are coming from his training. And so the workouts with me looked very different than they would with someone who's, who never exercises and they need to get a good workout. For him, it was like stabilizing and strengthening and watching the volume. And with these kids, you're teaching them a new sport is what you're doing. You're teaching them the sport of strength training so that they'll learn the technique and the skill. They're getting plenty of workouts.
I mean, they could do a whole 15 minutes to 30 minutes of just taking off or this jump, like, right? The explosiveness of a sprint. Like you can really pull apart a movement and make the entire workout about that,
Our next caller is Lisa from Ohio.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good. How can we help you?
Great.
So about 3 years ago, I started struggling with sleep, and I had some traumatic events happen in my life. My sister had passed away, my younger sister, and then I was studying for school, and then I think it was like maybe a couple months later, I took the COVID shot, and I'm a hypochondriac, so as soon as I did it, I was like, oh my gosh, I think that I have a blood clot. I think all these things that you hear about taking the shot, and long story short, none of that happened, but it caused me to just be so fearful. And with all those things happening, I wasn't able to sleep. Like I struggled with falling asleep. And then I think for like probably months, I would wake up all through the night and then I couldn't fall asleep. But like the last year, I can now fall asleep, but I wake up all night long. And I've been to the doctor, got my hormones checked, and they put me on progesterone. I did a little bit of testosterone, but none of that has helped. And I've been working out consistently, probably for 1.5 years, a lot of strength training. I don't do a whole lot of cardio, but walking, but I just feel like nothing I do helps with it.
With the sleep?
Yeah.
And are you doing the like the normal, checklist offenders, caffeine, alcohol, cannabis?
Yes, I don't do any of that. When I do drink, it's even worse. So I try to eliminate that as much as possible. But, I try to go to bed, same time every night. Just anything I've done, I've Googled and nothing has helped with that. And so my question to you guys is, should I continue to strength train 4 or 5 days a week? The only thing I haven't done is a sleep study, but I've probably spent thousands of dollars on supplements, magnesium of all kinds, and still nothing helps. I feel like I have not been able to get any weight off. Like over the last 2 years, I've probably gained 15 pounds, and I'm not great at tracking my food, but I don't feel like I eat terrible. So I'm sure that a lot of it is the fact that I don't sleep.
Yeah, that's all of it. I would cut the strength training down to like 3 days a week.
Okay.
And then I would look into therapy that could help, like EMDR therapy might be helpful. It's really, really effective for for dealing with trauma. I think that's probably, just based off what you're saying, the most likely culprit for your sleep issues.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked into EMDR?
I have not.
Okay, so it's very well established, lots of data supporting it, especially for dealing with trauma. And it really helps with, what it does essentially is allows the mind to feel safe enough to deal with some of the issues that might be plaguing you. And so what happens with certain traumatic events or issues is they stay with you because it's too painful to fully process. And I'm not an expert in it, but that's my understanding. But I would look into therapy and EMDR in particular at this point, because it sounds, based off what you're saying, it sounds like you've done a lot. You've got all the sleep hygiene, no caffeine, not the alcohol, you're exercising, you're not doing tons of cardio. Yeah, so that's what I would look into therapy to really deal with that first.
Okay. And as far as working out, I've always just done like videos online. But I feel like it's been a one size fits all. So I have my own home gym, and then I kind of quit that about 2 weeks ago, and I've just been doing my own strength training routines. But
I'll send you one.
Do you have suggestions for that?
Yeah, let's do MAPS 15. I think MAPS 15 will be appropriate with your lack of sleep.
I like that.
Yeah, let's do that program for now, and let's see how that feels.
Okay. And as far as nutrition, do you think I should just stick with, counting protein, whole foods?
Yep. And I mean, you look healthy. You do look healthy. Yeah, I think you're doing,
especially considering someone who's having trouble sleep.
Yeah, I think you're doing very well in spite of. I mean, poor sleep, chronic poor sleep is
killer.
Is absolute devastating for people's fitness progress.
And honestly, that's how, if I'm coaching you around nutrition and exercise, it's so I know that of course you might want to lean out, or that might be part of the goal, but the main goal is to get good sleep. And so the food decisions, all those things, like I'm starting to really unpack, like, okay, when you eat these dinners, is your sleep better or worse? And like, versus how many calories or protein is it? Like, it's more about that. It's like, let's really start to peer into what types of meals you have at what time, and if you notice positive or negative effects. And that's how we kind of decide. And then same thing with the workouts. Like, my workouts now become, okay, when we train this way and we do this much volume and intensity, does it make your sleep better or worse? And trying to, instead of like going, oh, I want to lean out, so does this macros or is this workout program going to, no, it's more like, let's solve the sleep thing, because all those other things will follow if we get that unlocked. And so that's kind of what we're peering into when we're making the decisions around nutrition and exercise.
Okay, that makes sense, because I've just been so frustrated, because I'm like, okay, I'm finally working out on a consistent basis. And, I keep reading and hearing, you need to work out in order to sleep better. But I don't think that mine started with hormones. I think it was more the trauma, the stress of finishing school, and then, losing my sister, and then taking the COVID shot. Yeah. It was just all at once.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask how long ago your sister passed away?
3 years ago. Okay. So it was 3 years ago in March. And then I was studying for some exams after I finished college. And then like a month later, I took the COVID shot. And, I said, I thought, I think I'm dying of everything.
Yeah. You're in a vulnerable place. Your sister's younger than you, so she was young. Yeah. That'll place a ton of obviously challenge and maybe fear and anxiety. I lost somebody who was young in my life, and it actually caused some PTSD in me, because, for me, this was my experience. When they died, it felt like it came out of nowhere. They got sick and died. And then I thought I became very hypochondriac. I thought I had everything I felt was something, because how could this happen to this healthy person? Right. And I had this long period of time with this kind of anxiety. So, and that kind of like, that hyper vigilance, it's not going to let you sleep, because your body's in this kind of, like, I got to be aware. I got to be all the time. Yeah, I got to be ready. And so relaxing is almost impossible. So,
So I got to the point where I could fall asleep, but I'm telling you what, I haven't slept through the night in 3 years. Like, I will wake up anywhere between 5 to 20 times. And then I just feel like it affects everything. Yeah. Like, I'll be concerned about my nutrition, working out. And then, I have a 15-year-old daughter that is watching me. So I'm trying to be the best, influence on her when it comes to working out, nutrition. But, I got to get the sleep taken care of first.
Yeah.
Because nothing else is working.
Yeah. With trauma, the best, from my experience, my research, I'm not an expert again, but this is just from my research, the most effective secular treatments include EMDR. And then if you have any kind of spiritual practice, the data shows that to be very powerful. So people who have a very strong faith and working with their community and through prayer, and just that also in the data shows to help a lot. So if that's you, I would combine the two, and maybe even find a practitioner who follows the same faith as you, who does EMDR, which they're out there. And then you can combine the two, and it could be, so if you go to a church, you can even ask them. They might even have a list of therapists. And EMDR is not like this weird, like there's quite a few people now that practice it.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I've never heard of that. And, I'm a Christian. My pastor has prayed with me, he at first was like, let's check your hormones, and they seem to come back fine. So it's just to find.
Yeah. Ask them if they have a list of therapists who they like, because it's really strengthening, right? To work with somebody who's a therapist who also follows your faith. I think that combination makes a big difference. So there you go. Yeah, do that. And then EMDR, and you can read up on it. It's literally, the acronym is EMDR. Look it up.
Okay. All right. I'll do that. Thank you guys so much. And then you said to do the MAPS program then,
we're starting out. Yep. We're going to send it to you.
Okay.
You know what, Lisa?
Thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure meeting all of you.
Let's put you in our forum too, Lisa. I'd like to follow along, okay?
Okay. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thank you.
Lisa.
All right. Take care.
Yeah. Trauma affects sleep. That's like one of the first things it affects.
Yeah, and the main point that I want to drill home is that when I have a client that's like this, and let's say she wants to lose weight, or
everything's geared towards the sleep.
Yeah, everything's geared towards the sleep. So
if you don't fix that, forget it.
Which does sound like different, right? Because it's like we're always talking about grams of protein and eating. It's like, no, like I'm going to really start to unpack. Like, okay, you ate this. How did you feel? Did you? And what time did you eat? How did you feel? And like everything's more. How is that improving or not improving our sleep? And then we can build the macros and all the stuff later. Let's first solve that.
All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. So let's say you decide to do 100 squats every single day. What happens to your body? Some pretty cool stuff.
Ooh,
let's talk about this.
You get stronger.
If somebody, thanks, you give away the first one for sure. Damn. Actually, a lot of people, it sounds obvious, but then you have a lot of people like, well, you can't do that every day type of deal. You have to do them the right way, right? I think 100 squats all at once is probably not a good idea, but spread out throughout the entire day, you for sure will get stronger.
You can easily overtrain if you